Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hillsborough Town Board of Commissioners December regular business meeting. Though, of course, this meeting is not very regular because it is the evening when we will swear in our new mayor and board members. And it's always a special evening, and I'm glad that you are all here. At the top of the agenda is the public charge, which I will not read. And we have a long history of abiding by the public charge, but I don't expect there'll be reason to break the public charge tonight, but it is printed if you need it. I am going to read a few comments as this is my last meeting before we get to the swearing ins. After 6 years as a town commissioner and 4 as mayor, my time on the Hillsborough Town Board has come to an end. Please know that serving in this role, while not always simple or easy, has been the honor of a lifetime. To be entrusted by the people of our community, to have the honor of working alongside current and past fellow board members, including Eric Hallman, Brian Lowen, and Mayor Tom. Thanks for being here tonight, Mayor Tom. In order to do the work of leading the town and guiding it toward the future is something I will treasure for the rest of my life. When I first ran for office a decade ago, it was with the goal of helping make Hillsborough a more equitable and environmentally sustainable town. And I believe that as a body, we have made great strides in that direction. Some of this has been very visible. Removing the Confederate memorial signage off the museum building, passing a resolution against HB2, flying pride banners during the month of June, rolling out the task force on reimagining public safety, adopting North Carolina's first non-discrimination ordinance, supporting Hillsborough's participation in the One Orange countywide racial equity framework, building Riverwalk, being one of the first towns in the state to pass a clean energy resolution. But honestly, most of the work to those ends happens in the regular grind of taking care of what we've got, making decisions and improving those decisions as we get better information in order to fulfill our long-term vision. I must emphasize that none of this was done on my own. Every good thing that has happened in town governance over the last decade has been the group effort of a town board that has embraced a shared vision of a more equitable and sustainable Hillsborough. A community where everyone has the ability to thrive is where we are all trying to go. Sometimes I have played a leadership role. Other times I have been supporting someone else's good idea. Even when we disagree, we are always working together for the betterment of our shared community with the best damn staff in the state of North Carolina to execute that vision. All of these efforts received a huge shock my first term as mayor. I was sworn in on December the 9th, 2019. The next day at 7 a.m., I had my first ribbon cutting at the biggest ABC store you have ever seen in your life. Then a few short weeks later, I was having conversations with the town manager about how this coronavirus thing was serious coming and we had better get prepared. A pandemic was surely not on my list of expected challenges, but I am incredibly proud of how the town responded, how the businesses and residents responded, and how we worked in concert with our neighboring communities to keep each other safe. And former Carrboro Mayor Lydia Lavelle is here tonight, who is a part of that too, and thanks for being here, Lydia. I know that those efforts saved lives. My second term was marked most clearly by the process and adoption of the Comprehensive Sustainability Plan. While the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to live from one moment to the next as information and conditions changed, the creation of the Comprehensive Sustainability Plan required something different, looking far into the future. Where do we want to be in the next 20 to 50 years, and how will we get there? While the process of getting the plan to the adoption stage last summer was much harder on town staff than it was on the town board, the hardest part is still yet to come as we, and in a few minutes, you move forward with implementation. But as a wise friend of mine said recently, the great thing about having a plan is that you have a plan. The comprehensive sustainability plan was informed by community input and thoroughly vetted by departmental staff and the Board of Commissioners. It is there for Hillsborough to follow and stick to for many years to come. And it's an excellent, inspired, and detailed plan. And that is why I feel so at peace with my decision to step away from elected office. I have full confidence that I am leaving Hillsborough in the hands of a new iteration of the town board, with a new mayor in Mark Bell, who will carry our community forward with competence, thoughtfulness, and a commitment to the vision and path of the comprehensive sustainability plan. Mark, Evelyn, Kathleen, Matt, and Rob, and Megan. You are terrific leaders for our community. I could talk for an hour about each of you and what you have to bring to this body that is important to the town, because you all bring something different and important. But to stay in the good graces of the crowd, I won't talk for an hour about each of you. Instead, I will just say thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for sharing your vision. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your time, and your energy with our community. Thank you for the solemn promise that you each have made or will make to this community to uphold the US Constitution and the state constitution to the ends of serving Hillsborough. I am so grateful for each of you. Eric, I'm almost to Eric. I just want to say ditto for our incredible town staff. Eric, you are such a treasure and a phenomenal leader. And it has been a true joy to work with you as the mayor especially, but also over the whole last 10 years. And I'm so tempted to start naming other staff members, past and present. But in the interest of time, please know how grateful I am for every single one of you in every department. Thank you to my friends, near and far, and from all eras of my life. Your presence in my life enriches it in immeasurable ways. And of course, to my family, my amazing parents, my mom is here tonight, my brother, my ride or die, and first gentleman, David Neal, and the shining lights in our lives that are our children, Cyrus and Rosalou. You are my everything, and I hope I have made you proud. People often describe the work that locally elected officials do as thankless, but that is usually said literally in the context of someone thanking us. I assure you, I do not feel like this work is thankless. The support and gratitude I feel from this community has lifted me on the hard days on more than one occasion. And the joy and enthusiasm that people have for getting to call Hillsborough home is contagious. Our town character lies most fully in the people who make up this community. I am so grateful for every person and local organization whose combined efforts make Hillsborough so special. We couldn't do it without you. May my parting words to the community as mayor be ones of encouragement. I encourage you to be part of local government, whether that means coming to meetings, reading the meeting summaries, serving on an advisory board, or running for office. The more of us who are engaged and understand what the work and vision is of the town, the better our town will be. When you find yourself wondering what the plan is for addressing some of our biggest challenges, such as affordable housing, safer ways to walk or bike through town, paying for water and wastewater infrastructure needs, ask a town board member directly, because they will write you back. They will return your calls. That's the great thing about being in a small town. You can look at the comprehensive sustainability plan, ask questions, and help the town think about how to do things differently or better. In a time when it is easy to feel cynical about politics, let's keep reaching for each other and moving forward to a better future in what really is the only way, together. Thank you, and I will see you on the other side of the dais. And now, the exciting part, we move to item 3, the oaths and affirmations of office. And first, we have Commissioner Matt Hughes. And I believe Judge Hathaway Pendergrass will be administering the oath.
Just gotta put on his cape.
Official. Good space right here.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand. And please repeat after me. I, Matt Hughes,
I, Matt Hughes,
do solemnly and sincerely affirm
do solemnly and sincerely affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are
which are
or may be
or may be
established for the government thereof,
that are or may be establishment for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of said state,
and laws of said state,
not inconsistent
not inconsistent
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as Commissioner.
as Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Matt. Next up, we have Commissioner Evelyn Lloyd, and administering the oath will be our town clerk, Sarah Kimmer.
You can stand right here. Here. You wanna turn this way? Wanna turn this way? Oh. If you'll place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, it's right here, yeah. Or we can set it here.
No, I can find the Bible.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Then raise my right hand.
Yes, ma'am. I, Evelyn Lloyd,
I, Evelyn Floyd,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will
support the
support and Constitution
and laws of the United
and laws
States,
of the United States,
that I will that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authority
which are or may be established
which are and may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and
maintain, and suspend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution of the said state,
not inconsistent
not inconsistent
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully and discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as Commissioner.
as Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Next up, I will swear in our newest town board member, Megan Darrow.
Bring the whole family.
I, Megan Darrow,
I, Megan Darrow,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as Commissioner.
the duties of my office as my office of Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up, Mark Bell will be sworn in as mayor. Hey, can you raise your right hand? Do you want to come up here? Y'all want to come up here?
No.
Okay, all right, we don't, you're very close. I, Mark Bell,
I, Mark Bell,
do solemnly and sincerely affirm
do solemnly and sincerely affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
that I will support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the laws and Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as mayor.
of my office as mayor.
Congratulations. Don't get too excited.
Wow. Thank you for being here, and I think the next order of business is we would like to say a few words from our experience working with you. And I would like to start with Matt.
Well, I'm really bad at saying goodbye and often I just choose not to. Can't do that right now. But I know it's not goodbye because Jen is gonna be around for a very long time around town as a mayor emeritus, as Mayor Tom knows very well. But after 6 years, I'm gonna be really sad, or I'm gonna really miss seeing you around the state, right? You've given so many years of service to my hometown, which I told you the other day, I really appreciated because unlike myself and Commissioner Lloyd, you weren't born here and you didn't grow up here, but you got here as fast as you could. I think you fit in so well with our town. And I've seen in your 10 years of service to Hillsborough that you have a fearless dedication to serving all the people as fairly and fearlessly as you can. And that you don't care where someone's from or who they are or who they love or any of those things, but instead have really been committed to representing all the people of our town in an authentic and real way. And always, at the end of the day, standing true to who you are. And there's not a lot of folks who do that in elected office. And so I want to say thank you for serving my hometown, our town, but also giving me the opportunity to do the same. When you voted to appoint me as a commissioner in Hillsborough, and I'll always be grateful for that opportunity, and to serve alongside you last 2 years as mayor pro tem has been a real joy. And I stayed true to my promise not to issue proclamations when you left town, even though I was tempted. But I will say, one of the ways that you really showed your authenticity and believing in people is when I had a slip up and we had a really great conversation. And that showed me who you are. And I really will always be in debt to you for that. Thank you.
Next, Evelyn?
Thank you for serving 10 years. You could have served longer if you so desired, but you wanted to spend time with your family. You've given time to the town and you've looked after all of us in your own way, and I do appreciate it. I must say that you have carried out the duties of your office, of both offices, you can say commissioner and mayor. And it's sort of hard to see you go, but I'll see you hopefully in town. And hope that you will continue doing something in town. You don't have to, you can have a vacation. You can do that with your children and your husband and your mother. And just enjoy life a while, and then you can volunteer for another committee. I think Matt and I will vote for you. I know Matt just said that he would. He would.
I would.
So that would give you 2 votes. So thank you again for your 10 years, and I think that you should really give yourself a break. You've given the town a lot, and I appreciate your help. And I could go on and on, but I think thank you are 2 good words.
Thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you.
Kathleen?
Wow, we came in together.
Mhm.
That first campaign event, I was still in T-Rex arms, literally, from surgery.
Mhm.
And you were so sweet. So literally T-Rex arms. It's gonna be really hard without you sitting on this dais. If we, whether as a commissioner or as mayor, we've been in the same class.
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed our collegial relationship. Our friendship, it means so much to me. People have already spoken about your service. I won't duplicate that. It's a given. You've always served with dedication and authenticity. Just really appreciate you. I'm gonna miss serving with you. And know that, I'll see you around, and, anything else, I'll get emotional, so I won't.
Rob?
Jen, I want to express my deepest gratitude and appreciation for the amazing service to this town and our community. Your journey from a Parks Recreation Board member to commissioner to mayors, it's left an indelible mark on our town and on me. Want to acknowledge an incredible impact that you've had on my own civic journey. And I'm not sure I would have considered applying for the board or even running for the board if you weren't steering the ship. So thank you for that. Throughout your tenure, you know, you've consistently demonstrated to be an exceptional leader. You have amazing compassion that I've witnessed touch the lives of, you know, many people in our community and in our greater area. Your, you know, genuine concern for the well-being of people in our community is evident in your everyday life and in the decisions that you make every day. You, as a mayor and just person in general, you are a great listener. You always take the time to understand the concerns and the wishes and aspirations of people in this community, and I really appreciate that. Always had an amazing collaborative spirit, and it's really, I think, been a driving force in bringing our board and our community together. Your ability to foster cooperation and unity is created a stronger, more resilient town and town board. And again, I thank you for that. The inclusive environment that you champion for the mayor's task force, Reimagine Public Safety, I think allowed many diverse voices to be heard. It's very important and it made our community more vibrant and welcoming place for everyone. I think one of your greatest, you know, traits is your fun and approachable demeanor. You make it easy for people to connect with you. You open. You just, you know, allow people to share wherever they want, whenever they want. You have a great ability to meet people wherever they are, and it helps really build relationships and strengthens, you know, our community. Again, I could go on and on too, but I wish you well in your transition to your next chapter. You've done amazing work here, and you will be missed. And I thank you again for your unwavering commitment and everything that you've given to this town and this board. Wishing you all the best.
Well, it's my turn. So echoing something you said earlier, I could talk for hours and hours about Jen, about your service to the town, but I'm going to be brief for the sake of time. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve with you during your time on the board, and as when I was the mayor pro tem during the pandemic. I had a front row seat to your leadership during this once in a century event. And I can testify to the level of difficulty and work that it was far more involved than average people see. There were so many meetings and decisions of extreme consequence for you to consider, and all these things were about keeping us safe and recovering from the pandemic as quickly as possible. I can't imagine a bigger responsibility for a mayor than navigating the pandemic. I also had the pleasure of working with you on the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization as the alternate during your tenure and when you were the chair of that board. And for those who don't know about the DHC MPO, it's a political body that makes decisions about transportation planning for all of Durham County, parts of Orange County, and parts of Chatham County, including Hillsborough, Chapel, and Carrboro, and the northeastern part of Chatham County. So the MPO has so much responsibility that you were instrumental in navigating all these jurisdictions and counties and towns and the work that the MPO did. And the list of things that the MPO does is really long. I'm not going to read all of those things. But transportation planning is complex, and you led that board with skill and a deep respect for the staff who do the work of the MPO and for the public whose lives are impacted by the transportation infrastructure decisions made by the MPO. Everybody in this room passed through roads and highways that are governed and organized by the MPO, and you chaired that board with great skill and compassion. And finally, I want to recognize your family for the work that you guys have done over 10 years. We thank you for the time you let her spend with us, for the contribution of her talents to the town, Orange County, and the region. So thank you, David. And Cyrus and Rosalou. And a special thank you to Jen's mom, Cam. You do good work. So, and I could say everything that has been said by everybody else and it would all be very true. So thank you, and you have earned our respect and our love for the future. So thank you. And this time, I would like to invite the town manager to assist me. Jen, if you would come up, we have a little presentation.
I've made it this far without crying.
So this is a proclamation honoring Jen Weaver. Whereas the Hillsborough Board of Commissioners wishes to acknowledge and express its sincere appreciation to Jen Weaver for her loyal and dedicated public service to the community members and the town of Hillsborough employees for the past 10 years. Whereas Jen Weaver served on the Hillsborough Board of Commissioners as a commissioner from 2013 to 19, as mayor pro tem from 2018 to 19, and as Hillsborough's first female mayor from 2019 to 23. And whereas Jen Weaver has demonstrated outstanding leadership and integrity and has served unselfishly in her capacity as a commissioner and as a mayor for the good of the town of Hillsborough, devoting her time, energy, and talents to the town. And whereas Jen Weaver has put forth substantial effort towards improving the quality of life for Hillsborough community members, continuously seeking to make Hillsborough a better place for all to live, work, and play. And whereas during her tenure on the Hillsborough Board of Commissioners, Jen Weaver was instrumental in keeping residents of the town employees safe during the COVID-19 pandemic, creating a task force on public safety, and adopting North Carolina's first non-discrimination ordinance, the Orange countywide racial equity task force, and the comprehensive sustainability and strategic plans. And whereas Jen Weaver expertly represented Hillsborough on numerous external boards, coalitions, and associations during her tenure, and led the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization as chair, and the Upper Neuse River Basin Association as vice chair. And whereas it is right and fitting to show appreciation when one has rendered such valuable service, civic service to the community. Now, therefore, I, Mark Bell, Mayor of the town of Hillsborough, do hereby recognize Jen Weaver with a key to the town for her decade of exemplary service to Hillsborough and express deep gratitude for the immense contributions she has made to our community. Did witness whereof I have unto set my hand to cause the seal of this town of Hillsborough to be affixed the 11th day of December 2023. Thank you.
Oh, don't go away. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I can order you around here. Let me grab some, stay right here. So there's a few other things. We also have a necklace of the town clock, and we will get that to you shortly, here this evening. And also one of the bigger events that we have every year is when we recognize milestone awards for employees and elected officials, and you have reached your 10-year milestone. So you get another award and one of these like really cool 10-year coins to add to your, unfortunately, you can't, buy adult beverages with that. So, and then the last thing, a little anticlimactic after all the great words from your colleagues on the board, as you know, and Mayor Tom knows, the relationship between the mayor and the manager is very unique. Because whether it's you calling or texting me or me calling or texting you, when we see each other's name, we say, oh, something. Because we don't call each other, I'm just checking on you. Are you doing okay? Isn't everything great? But the point of that, a little joke, is that you really get to know someone when you work with so many different challenges. And I can just tell everybody in this audience and everybody knows behind me, it's like, you are just one of the finest people I have ever worked with in 36 years of local government, because you just really know you care about people, and I'm just always just so impressed with the concern and passion in weighing everything in an issue and the people that you do that behind the scenes and you do that in public. And, so I'm just grateful, and there's just a few little comments for you, so thank you.
Okay. So the next part of the agenda, I would like to hear from, provide an opportunity for everyone who was recently elected to say a few brief words, and then we will break for a reception. So, Matt, would you like to say a few words about?
Sure. Yeah. What does a boy who grew up in West Hillsborough get to say other than an immense amount of gratitude to be able to serve the community that I grew up in and has given me, I think, so much. And so I'm very excited to begin this term. It feels weird to say I'm starting another 4 years. As a second term, it feels like, well, you just served 4, but you've kind of already served some bonus years. So I'm grateful to have those under my belt. I'm thankful to the voters for their confidence in reelecting me to the town board. But I'm also grateful to have the support of those I ran alongside, including Commissioner Lloyd, now Commissioner Darrow, I'm gonna have to get used to that, and Mayor Bell. And that really Hillsborough voted to continue the progress that we've been on this great path. And to me, that was really affirmed in our election. And I'm glad that we'll continue to work on the issues we've been working on here on the town board every second and fourth Monday of the month at 7 o'clock. Delivering on a train station. Someone just told me the other day, like, is it ever coming? Y'all been talking about it for so long, but these things take time. And then affordable housing and sustainability and so many important issues that I know that we know the town is facing, and then the issues that we don't know about that we don't know are on the horizon. So I'm excited to get started and continue this work. And I'm excited for this new constitution of the board and working together as a good team and continuing to work with Rob and Kathleen as well. So thank y'all.
Evelyn?
Thank you for those who voted for me. I know I have been on the board a long time, but I have been on the board. Well, I feel like I have lived I have lived in Hillsborough all of my life, so I probably know Hillsborough as well as anybody. There's probably somebody in the audience who's lived in Hillsborough longer than I have, but I take great pride in Hillsborough. I especially am fond of the town clock. It's my father round the clock since 1965 until probably he was in his 80s. So I've sort of inherited it. The love of the town from my parents. My mother taught first grade, so I have known Hillsborough extremely well, and I try to like all the departments, I appreciate all that anybody who works for the town and has worked for the town and for the effort that they have put into it, because the town has improved from, as I have told this story many times, from when I first got on the board. We had a police station that had been a restaurant, and it leaked on all the files. It was beside of the Mercantile Center. And we came to so when my first or second year, the planner and I decided that it was time to get a police station. So we have a new police station. The clock has been, as I said, since that's my favorite, we spent $90,000 to have the clock, which had not been cleaned since the 1800s, had been cleaned in New York, so it's taken away. And we have the reservoir, which if you can look through the fence, you can see that the our dam is, it looks like piano keys, is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, and I did help. I was one of the ones that helped pick the site for the reservoir, because it didn't bother but one house out of a community. And I can't say enough about Hillsborough. I have enjoyed being on the board, and I hope that I have given some service to the board. I have tried. And I think that Hillsborough is a wonderful place to live, and I just wish that we would slow down a little bit on density and not cut down so many trees, and enjoy walking around and seeing all the pretty buildings and things from the 1700s. So thank you again for those who voted for me, for those who didn't vote for me, and I hope to do better and continue to make Hillsborough the place that was begun in, now I've forgotten the year, but I think, but Hillsborough was probably, when William Churton platted the town. So it's been quite a while, and for the people who live in Hillsborough, I hope to help. It's me and help all who come, well, I try to help everybody in Hillsborough. So all the citizens of Hillsborough, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to continue to serve.
First, I'd just like to say, as a resident of Hillsborough, thank you, Mayor Jen, for everything that you've done. You've led with grace and confidence and never compromising any of your values. And as a resident and a newly elected member of the board, I really appreciate what you've done for our community. Mark, I just want to say congratulations. I'm really excited to work with you in your new role. It's exciting to see what you'll bring to this great long line of mayors that we've had in Hillsborough. Matt, Kathleen, Evelyn, Rob, I welcome your guidance as I start this new chapter of my life, and really excited to work with you all and all the great exciting things that we're gonna bring to Hillsborough, like the train station and affordable housing and what we can do for the residents here in Hillsborough. The town staff, Eric, I also am so excited to work with you all, knowing that you're in the machine that makes this all happen. And you come to the board, I've seen so many times, with very thoughtful plans, robust plans, to make just, we get the town objectives done and you execute them successfully. The supporters and residents of Hillsborough, thank you so much for your votes and your confidence and your trust that you've given to me, and I really hope to make you all proud. So thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank my family, Virginia and Thane, for all your support and encouragement over the past 16 and a half years that led up to tonight. And I spent a lot of time away from town serving the town, so thank you for the sacrifices that you've made. And I want to recognize Virginia who has served a similar amount of time on advisory boards and other organization boards in town. And she's my go-to person when I am considering weighty matters on behalf of the town. So Virginia is the best sounding board you could ever ask for. And I'm thrilled to have my brothers, Andy and Haley, my cousin Scott here from Tennessee visiting. Thank you for coming all this way. And I want to thank everybody in the election during the cycle who came out and asked questions about the election, who expressed their interests in certain topics, and the fact that you paid attention to the election and the issues. The questions that people ask us during the election cycle, that's what informs us about what is really important to you and how we should prioritize those things. Thank you for being involved and engaged in that process. I want to thank the many elected officials that are here tonight. We have Judge Hathaway, we have James Ed Bedford, Chair of the Orange County Board of Commissioners. We have former Carver Mayor Lydia Lavelle, Representative Renee Price, and I apologize if I'm skipping over anybody else. Phyllis came in? Oh,
Yes.
Phyllis. Oh, there she is. Hey, Phyllis. So the work that you do with us to make everybody's tide rise and the boats with it, that's the unknown cool factor about being elected to office. We get to work with some of the smartest, most dedicated people in the region. So thank you for what you do. And finally, I want to thank Beverly Payne. She's looking at me like, why do you want to do that? Beverly's with the Occoneechee Band's Pony Nation. And I appreciate her friendship and her education to Hillsborough and to me about the tribe and the relationship of the tribe to the region. And that ask that you keep your thoughts and the Occoneechee Band in mind when we're here on their ancestral lands and treat it with the respect, love, and care that their ancestors did, and as the Occoneechee Pony people do today. So thank you, Beverly and the tribe, for being in Hillsborough. So those are my comments about the election, and I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We're going to have a brief reception next. You're welcome to stay and linger, and then after the reception, we'll have a regular business meeting. I know some of you have other things to do. You might want to stick around for the business part of the meeting. We are in recession. Yeah. Okay, if we're ready, we can continue with the agenda. Audience comments not related to the printed agenda. Sarah, has anybody signed?
There are none.
Okay, nobody signed up. Okay, agenda changes and approval. I know of at least one change to the agenda.
Mayor Mark, I'd like to ask to add a closed session item very briefly to discuss and hopefully get the board's authorization to resolve the sanitary sewer improvements closure for the Forest Ridge subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the amended agenda?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. Second from Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry to vote out of habit. Rick, tie, that's it.
I forgot to.
Okay, next on the agenda, number 9, appointments. We're going to select Mayor Pro Tem and do our committee assignments. So the tradition is to select someone who has been on the board and not yet served as Mayor Pro Tem, and that person would be Rob at this point. Are there any motions to appoint Rob? Any discussion?
As the current mayor pro tem, I nominate the next mayor pro tem, Robbie.
Thank you, Matt. Second from Kathleen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Rob. And Rob, thank you for doing that, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and regarding committee appointments. So I think we have an agreement on the different committees, and Sarah, would you like me to read line by line
Please.
which? Okay. So these are the things that have been individually discussed. If there is, hold your, if there are no changes, hold your peace. So Central Pines Council of Government, Ferguson, primary, and Hughes as alternate. Community Home Trust Elected Officials Committee, Dara. And let me know if I'm going too fast for you. Okay. MPO, I will be primary and Matt will be alternate. Hillsborough Parks and Rec, English. Tourism Board, Dara. TDA, Dara. Water Sewer Advisory Committee, Mayor Pro Tem will continue attending all 6 meetings per year, down from 12. And then do we, I'm sorry, I don't know, Sarah, which months of the calendar, are they even months or odd months?
They're even.
Even, okay, right,
For Mayor Pro Tem?
No, for the Wasac only meets even numbered months.
okay. And so we need to select, how about I call for volunteers so starting in February, is that right? Even numbers?
I won't know until, Friday at the earliest when State Cog adopts its new schedule for next year.
Okay, how about somebody like to volunteer for February?
I'll be back up for February.
Matt? Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay. April?
I can do April.
Okay. Megan, April? June? I can do that. Okay, August? Volunteers?
I may be able to.
Kathleen, maybe? Evelyn, could you do August for water sewer?
Yes.
Evelyn? Kathleen, that would leave, October or December.
Those are gonna be chancy. August, I have a better chance.
Okay.
But again, I can confirm once the State Cog we meet.
Okay,
Friday. And we'll have our schedule for next year.
okay. Then how about we, get a second meeting selection from those who can do those months, and then we can trade later. So Matt or Megan, could either you do October?
October would be better.
Matt?
Okay, I'll do
Thank you. And December.
Mhm.
Megan? Thank you. Okay, the next, committee assignment is, Orange County Family Success Alliance Advisor Council, Hughes. Orange County Housing Collaborative, formerly the Home Partnership, Ferguson. Orange County Intergovernmental Climate Council, English. Orange County Intergovernmental Parks Work Group, English. And let me go back to the climate group. So in addition to a town board representative, they also want a representative from Parks and Rec Committee. So we'll defer to the Parks and Rec Committee, Commissioner English, when you meet with them again to work with staff. I guess Stephanie to help find somebody to volunteer for that as well. Thank you. Orange County Partnership to End Homelessness, Ferguson. Orange County Solid Waste Advisory Group, Bell and Dara. Chapel Hill, Orange County Visitors Bureau, Hughes. Orange Rural Fire Department, Lloyd. Orange Rural Fire Department Relief Fund, Lloyd.
Yeah.
And then the Upper Neuse River Basin Association, Dara. And that's the end of my list. And that gives a very nice mix of assignments and number of meetings per year to everybody on the board who's volunteered for the position. So thank you. It's a very good list of assignments, I think. Okay, so that's the slate. And do we need a motion to approve that slate?
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do it again. All opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, number 10, presentation, the fiscal year 2022-23 audit presentation.
That sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening and congratulations.
Thank you.
So, just as a reminder, I was not here too long ago, but my name is Robbie Bittner. I'm a partner with PV Mayors. We performed the external audit for the fiscal year, June 30th, 2023. And, first thing I want to say is, y'all have been through a gauntlet and you have performed 3 audits in the course of 1 year, which is pretty incredible. So hopefully this year, we'll be back on a normal schedule of audits. But I did want to say thank you to the staff, for really helping us out and making sure that we could get this done, because I know that we can be a bother as auditors. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Eric. So, all right, so let's go through here. I was asked to make this a little shorter, and so I am going to make this shorter. So I'm going to skip a few slides here or there or graze over them. Some of it's just some information that you're welcome to look through. If you have any questions, you want to go through it, we certainly can. But otherwise, we'll plug along, since I know that you've probably got several more things that need to be covered today. So agenda here, first thing we're gonna talk about is the financial results and the audit opinion on the financial statements. A few benchmarking and just some comparative things about some of the town's past historical information. Then we'll go into compliance results, our report on compliance in accordance with the Yellow Book, as well as the State Single Audit Act, since we were required to have a separate audit opinion for that this year. Then we will go on to the performance indicators of concern. We did have one this year as it relates to a restatement item, which I'm gonna cover here in just a few minutes. So, first things first, as auditors, we are charged with providing you with an opinion as to whether or not your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP. Happy to say, here are the 4 different types we can do, going from the worst to the best. And as you see, the best is highlighted, the unmodified or clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide as external auditors. So the town did receive a clean, unmodified opinion this year. This here is just your general fund revenues, kind of a breakdown of just percentages. Ad valorem taxes being the highest one, and then your unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, which is primarily sales tax, are the others. So this was the next kind of 5-year trend of your revenue. You had a pretty good jump in the ad valorem taxes and the unrestricted intergovernmentals, and that's just, I think, goes to show for some of your growth through the area. I mean, that sales tax number is a pretty good pop. So with that, this goes here to your current property tax levy that has been collected. As we saw with most governments in the 2020 and 2021, around the pandemic, collections went down a little bit. But as you can see, yours have recovered quite nicely. And as you'll see here, you are doing better than your similar sized municipalities without electric systems. One update from when we did this presentation before, the LGC has finally put together something that allows us to compare you to other similar sized groups, and not just entities with greater than $10 million in expenditures. So you are now being compared to entities between 5,000 and 15,000 population. So much more reasonable to compare to. Going on from there, we'll look at your expenditures. As usual, the public safety number is the highest. This is a trend you see in pretty much every municipality, with general government following that up. And then your trend over the last 5 years, as you can see, the breakdown of the differences are really, there's not much different. And Ms. Ferguson, if you'd like, I'll be happy to provide you a copy of this.
Thank you. I
So you don't
appreciate
need to take pictures.
Got a copy in there.
I know, but I'd still take pictures.
So, I just want to make sure that you did get a copy.
Oh, no, it's in the evening.
Okay.
I even have it printed out.
So, this is your fund balance. As you can see, healthy growth in the fund balance each year, year over year. And this is this breakdown of the type of fund balance. Let's see. The different breakdowns of the types of fund balance you can have. There's really four or five levels. Some call it 4, some call it 5, but you have prepaids, your restricted, your committed, assigned, and unassigned. And that goes from level of who has the authority to change what the money can be used for, down, which restricted is an external third party. Non-spendable is money that's actually already been spent and prepaid on an item. And then committed is what the board can do and commit money. And then the assigned numbers are the assigned amounts that are put together by management. So, and then that aside for subsequent years expenditures, as you can see it there. But you do have a nice healthy $9.5 million of unassigned fund balance in the general fund. So go on to the compliance results. As I mentioned, in addition to our opinion on the financial statements, we also issue our opinion in accordance, or not our opinion, but a letter in accordance with government auditing standards to your compliance with laws, regulations, grants, contracts, as well as we would identify any fraud, waste, or abuse, or any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control that we identified during the course of our audit over the financial statements. We did not have any non-compliance, and we did not have any fraud, waste, or abuse, or anything of that nature. There was one material misstatement, or excuse me, not material misstatement, but material compliance. Excuse me, my head's getting lost here. We had a material weakness in internal control. Should have just moved the slide. This was related to a capital assets item that should have been capitalized in a previous year. So you'll see that the beginning balance of net position for the water sewer fund was restated for this item as a unique item that the town did work, and then the state took over the streets when it was done. So should have happened in fiscal 22. It wasn't identified till trying to close out the fund this current year from the fund perspective, that it was not going to be the town's road at the end. So management has a response, and in the financial statements themselves, there's the official corrective action plan. It has already been taken care of. So not anything to be concerned of going forward, but it is something that we needed to bring up during this meeting. Next thing we're going to go through is what we call our AUC 260 auditor's communication to those charged with governance. A lot of words on here. I'm going to hit the main things. First one up here, the second item on the left side up here is related to the restatement. So there's an extra paragraph in the auditor's opinion related to that, just pointing out that we understand there was a restatement, but that does not modify our opinion to the financial statements in the current year. This one, only thing I want to point out here that's important, we had no audit adjustments. So everything that was presented to us, we did not have to adjust it to get it to conformity with GAAP. So that's a testament to getting things right the first time around. So kudos to staff on that. This one here, the top one is the most important. We did not have any difficulties working with staff than working with the town. So next item that we'll go through quickly, since it's all interrelated, related to the restatement item, performance indicators. When we prepare the data input form to submit to the local government commission, the financial statements each year, there's a section on there called performance indicators, and it's literally a tab that have to print and provide to you. It's in your 260 letter as well, of items that if it pops red, then there's something that the board will have to officially communicate to the LGC for that item. We did have one this year, and that was related to the restatement. Again, any type of material weakness or significant deficiency that's identified goes through, but outside of that, there was no other items that will have to be addressed by the unit. So, quickly, I know I skipped over it briefly. State Single Audit Implementation Act, we did render our opinion on your compliance with the state grants that you received and expended this past year. Happy to say you did receive an unmodified opinion on that, as well as there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control over compliance for the state programs. So next up, Tourism Board. Not much to say. You have an unmodified or clean opinion. Everything was good to go on the Tourism Board. And then the same thing for your TDA, unmodified or clean opinion on those separate financial statements, which of course then roll on up into the towns. So hopefully I did that quick enough. I was going to start on page 1 and just kind of go through it, but I figured y'all might run me out of the room. So with that, again, thank you. We do appreciate the opportunity to serve the town and everybody's helpfulness around here. And I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? I see Matt.
Yeah, the one indicator that flashed red, is that related to the DOT
Yes,
town
sir.
board? Okay.
Yes,
Or
sir. It
DOT
it
and
was,
water.
it all kind of flows around and they require performance indicators if you have a significant deficiency or material weakness. Because they had to restate the numbers, it automatically indicated there was a weakness at some point in the system. So we reported the material weakness, restated the net position, but then the LGC on the back end wants to have that closure as well on there.
And then in the audit, I believe the corrective action was just that management would do better with communication in the future.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that, however, is not sufficient to meet the LGC's needs. It has to be something directly from the Board of Commissioners
Okay.
to the LGC for that item. So. But once you get that, it should be pretty simple in this situation, since you already have the corrective action plan. It's pretty much been implemented already. And then just provide them that information.
And Eric, when would we do that part?
I'll ask Dave, with January, we'll bring something on board.
I'll print out that I think each of the board members have to, jump in from where we, each of the board members have to sign the letter. It did something comparable back in the last audit. And then I have to sign it and also Eric. And then we send it off to the LGC to their portal. And then I guess that should put it to rest from there, I would think.
It should, they send us an email a week after they get it, that it's been accepted and so. Yes, sir. Anything else?
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Eric, would you and or Dave like to make any other comments or observations for us?
Just a quick one. I know we've recognized the town staff multiple times over the past year, as Robbie mentioned, like 3 audits in 10.5 months. But I also want to really thank Robbie and his team at PB Mayors, because the other audit that you got presented in August, which was done in late June, they did that off cycle. And they were working, it was a big commitment for them to do that, come in, work with our team and to get us, so we're on time this year. So a huge thanks to you and everybody with your group.
Could not do it without your staff.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, you work so well together and we're able to accomplish what you did in a year. Thank you.
I'm absolutely grateful that you are supporting. There's so many communities that I hear from where auditors are saying no. We are grateful you said yes.
It is an unfortunate thing happening in the state now, that there's just not enough auditors for all of the units out there at this point.
Or nonprofits.
Well, we all do the same way. So it's been a challenge, but
Thank you. And I echo those comments. I was at a training session with the league a month or so ago, and that's one of the questions that some of my peers raised. How can we find an auditor? We're getting further behind, so it's a problem.
absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay, on to agenda item number 11, consent agenda. Anybody need to change the consent agenda, or do we have a motion to approve as submitted?
Move to approve as submitted.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Evelyn, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to number 12, in the decision agenda, regular agenda. The first one is modification of the town code section 14-56 regarding cross-connection control, something we've got talked about on numerous occasions, and I'm sure Marie is going to enlighten us. Let's get more.
Good evening. First, I want to give an official congratulations to you as new mayor and our re-elected board members and our new board member. I look forward to working with all of you in the coming year to continue our excitement and advancement with our utility system. And as you mentioned, Mayor, we have talked about this cross-connection control, and in particular, related to existing in-ground swimming pools, which we were trying to catch up on to meet the code that we had at the time earlier this year, and that was to install a reduced pressure principal assembly device, which is a physical device that goes on the water service line to a home that has a existing or potential for backflow. So not to belabor this anymore, but we are to the point where we are bringing this actual code change to you after discussions with the residents, with the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, and amongst all of us as well. So we have our red line section 1456, which has not been modified since 2008. So we are addressing the biggest item here, which is to define what we mean by water body. And that would include not only a swimming pool, but it would also include a man-made pond, a fountain, anything that you might fill with the potable water supply through a hose or something. So we do define that in the code, and we are also adding what the residents would prefer, and that is essentially a no-cost option, which is called an air gap, and that's physical separation between filling something through a hose with the potable water supply and what you are filling, to prevent those two items from coming in contact and potentially backflowing into our water system. So that is the biggest change, but we're also took the opportunity to update the current state regulatory agency's name, which has probably changed 3 times since 2008. And we also did some editorial reference updates and commas and things like that. And I think that pretty much covers what we're adding. We're keeping it very simple. We had talked about some more intense, I guess, oversight of residential hazards, which might include putting a hose bib vacuum breaker as a device, and us looking at those things and doing an air gap agreement, which means we've gone and spoke with the residents, and they have signed that they are not going to make that cross connection, and that they understand what the air gap is, and then they were to notify us if they moved or had a plumbing change. At the board's request and at, I guess, our request, we did not want to get that deep into those details. The air gap is an approved and recognized method for preventing cross connection, so we're just keeping it as that. We will continue to do our education with these owners, and anytime that we see a new pool or other potential severe hazard coming online, we will reach out. We've already begun our education. We had something in the annual water quality report. I believe there's a video that Troy has made. We've updated our website, and we are going to be reaching out to these people directly as well, and maybe giving them like a little pamphlet or something that they understand the hazards of cross connection and backflow. With that, I will take any questions you might have about the proposed changes to the code.
May I ask a clarifying question
Sure.
regarding the scope of the request? So the scope of the request is to approve modification, the red line modifications to the existing code.
Correct.
And then part B is reimbursement.
The next agenda item, once you have agreed to change the code to relax a little bit for the people that we were asking to comply, potentially the prior code, then we will speak about the reimbursement of the people who did comply and install a RPZ.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do is go around the room. I'd like to start with making them kind of go around this way. Do you have any clarifying questions or comments?
I do, and I'm not sure how many others also have them, because
I've got stuff all through the entire document, so I don't know if going section by section would be best or, but it can start at the beginning of the amended ordinance. I don't know, the first part of my notes here, where that starts in here. I don't know if that's amenable to everybody, if there's a section that I have a question about, if Matt has the same section
That's okay,
question.
that is your prerogative.
Okay.
And just to let us know what page of the PDF that you're on, so we can follow along.
So the overall agenda PDF page would be 224, but it'd be page 2 of 12 of the ordinance. Now I have to remember what my notes are here. I've highlighted the red line section. It is the consumer's responsibility to install and maintain. In this entire section, by adding that, I felt that when that sentence has been added, it makes it sound like every resident of Hillsborough needs to add back. Whereas without that line, it's the town is directing certain residents. I don't think it's a clear addition. And that's one of the items that I saw there,
Okay,
is when it's all read out. I just didn't feel it was clear for pool owners alone, or if it's every resident.
well, any consumer who is required by or asked, if they're not covered in our list, it would be their responsibility to install and maintain it.
Yes, and which when I read through this, it was, yes, every customer does have the responsibility not to cross-contaminate. But this was then, you would have to add the assembly per subsections E through G. And so when you go to subsections E through G, those were all the other items that might have to, be added. And I guess my overall point is that in this section, I just felt like it was more confusing to all the customers of Hillsborough versus just pool customers.
I just want to point out, Megan, that consumer is a defined term,
Mm-hmm.
and it is defined as any person from a corporation using or receiving water from the town water system.
Mm-hmm.
A person includes residential water customers,
Yeah, and I guess that would be me without a pool
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, now when I read this, now
Yeah.
do I might have to put something in even though I don't have a pool? And maybe, somebody who wants to look at that again and how it's read, it just, when I read through it, I was like, that makes it sound like everybody's gotta do it now. So that was my first note in these changes.
I thought E, F, and G have to deal with who's required to do it. So I guess what you're saying is if it's not required, then you're thinking that this definition is confusing. I guess you have to take the whole thing into context. But we can certainly look at massaging that information. Are you talking about the first red line or you're talking about it is the consumer's responsibility to
that one.
install and maintain?
Because when I read this ordinance and I see consumer responsibility, that's all the consumers of Hillsborough.
It
It's
is.
not just the not just the
Right,
people
and
that have a
that is
pool or.
intended. We're taking the opportunity to beef up the entire chapter while we are addressing the pool owners.
Mhm.
So when we go down and take it into context, when you go to the related sections down below, it is more definitive on who is required to install them. Because these are just definitions. Do you have any ideas, Bob? how that
Yeah.
Can be better or?
Because I guess in that next line that's already there, then it tells, like, without that red addition, the way that it was written before, it's telling me that the town's gonna tell me if I'm one of those consumers that has to do
Mhm.
that. By adding that section, now I feel like every consumer has. And we don't need to belabor this, it's
Okay.
just something that I read and
had other people read it to make sure that I wasn't completely off base in my thinking, so.
Sure.
But that was one item that I was concerned about.
Keep going and I'll work on this.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see here. The next one, that I've got highlighted was the next section, the certified backflow prevention assembly tester responsibility. I know in your short summary at the beginning of this, you had mentioned that the town doesn't have the resources to follow up with each of these. Is this, how does this look for a customer then? If the town doesn't have the resources to do this testing, are we contracting it through another company?
The annual testing?
Yes.
It has always been the consumer's responsibility to do the testing themselves, and then they submit the test reports. It used to be directly to the town. And a few years ago, we started using a company that most other utilities use called BSI Online. And so that is completely, so they send the notices and they inform us if someone didn't submit their test and is past due.
Yeah, and I guess the part that I actually outlined here for myself was, making sure that the test equipment was evaluated, approved by town, it's all registered by town, but is that done through the contract then too?
Yes. Oh, by the tester.
Yes, like
Yes.
our town, like,
Oh, but we know when a new device is installed, a new assembly, I should say, when a new assembly is installed, it's usually by a trade permit. And we go out and we look at that assembly and approve that it has been installed to our specifications. And that we have received the initial test report from the consumer's tester before we will approve a certificate of occupancy or completion, I should say.
yeah, this paragraph has to do with the testing equipment.
Where,
That,
I'm sorry, where are you at again?
it would be the very top of page 2 or 3 of 12, section E, the last paragraph. Is that all test equipment is what I'm curious about. It'll be calibrated annually, and certified by the town, but is that going to be is that testing and certification contracted through the backflow solutions, or is the town actually keeping record of all that certified equipment?
So the tester who the consumer hires to test it annually will make sure that everything is calibrated. The report is submitted to the town. And now it is just submitted via our third party manager, BSI.
Okay, so this part is, the town is not going to be certifying, calibrating.
Correct. No,
equipment.
we have never done that.
Okay, that's what this part of the ordinance says that we will do. Okay, all test equipment shall be checked for accuracy annually, calibrated if necessary, and certified.
Right, the certification is part of the report to the
Okay.
town, certified to the town.
All right. Gonna keep on going. Sorry, so the next section that I highlighted had to do, with page 4 of 12, and this is the definition section. The first one was the contamination, definition. What I had looked at was the North Carolina Building Code definition. And what I noticed is that the difference between the town's definition and the North Carolina code definition is that we have the addition of the word potential in there, and the building code does not.
Right.
And I just don't see how, like, you can have a potential contamination, but like contamination shouldn't have the word potential as its definition I see you nodding over there, Bob. I'm just like.
The word potential has been at the root of this whole problem.
And that's part of the state. So we have to have this program because of the state, not the building code, but the state of North Carolina. So the plumbing code, the building code deals with the home plumbing when someone's installing something in their guidance. We're supposed to address any potential for backflow and existing cross connections that can cause backflow.
But,
And that's why our code is written this way.
but this is in the, I guess by the word contamination, saying that a potential, I don't know.
Part of the problem we had, and one of the reasons why we're here on this again, is that the state, which is based on some federal regulation, has identified, backflow prevention with respect to swimming pools as being a potential source of severe health hazards. And that's why the federal and the recommended state regulation wanted the more expensive device that everyone objected to. And that's how we adopted our code in 2008. And now, given the public dislike of our compliance with what we thought was the requirement of the state code, we're changing it to allow the air gap, which is basically free, instead of the backflow prevention device, which was potentially thousands of dollars. And of course, use of the word potential and potential severe health hazard is kind of what got us here to begin with.
So contamination is also defined, I believe, in the state code. I'm sorry, Troy was here earlier to back me up here since he's the expert. but
Well,
he
that's,
did-
yeah, that's
He
what I
had
written
the
down is the
family,
state code.
family emergency.
That's what the difference between the state code, and our town definition was, we've added potential, the state does not have potential in it.
Not in the section of the state regulations that govern this application. And it's a common problem, is that the building code may define things differently than the other codes. And I mean, this is almost lifted in 2008, right from the state regulations.
What I've done in this section is because there's several different descriptions of the same thing, contaminant, health hazard, severe hazard, they're all between plumbing code, building code, state code, and our code. I just added the word health/severe. They basically all mean the same thing. Contamination means it's really, it's water that can potentially or does contaminate, can contaminate the water system, the water supply. So it's like really dirty water.
Well, the second part of that, adding the health and severe, wouldn't the contamination even be the one that's the moderate one?
That's pollution. Pollution's down further and that's the moderate one. So in the definitions, like when we get down to the degree of hazard, I've basically added the same thing, health versus non-health, moderate versus severe. And then when you get down to the term pollution on the PDF page 227, that's more of an aesthetic situation. Contamination is you can make people sick or kill them.
All right, I see that distinction now.
Yeah, I know, it's really hard to look at these regulations, especially when they're really long and you have to sort of cross-reference and look at the whole thing. I had to have trouble myself.
Let's see, I think the next one that I was questioning, skipped it again, was when a consumer does not allow the town access. The first one, and I'm trying to find where that is written, but the first.
Are you on 6 of 12, right of entry?
Oh, yep, that's it, rate of entry, 6 of 12, the span the two. So if there's a refusal to allow entry, the first line of defense is for the town to discontinue water service. And my question there was, why then, if the water service is discontinued, like that's the last step, like why are we then all this sudden being like, all right, you're to let us onto your property, you know, we can turn your service back on, but then we're also gonna say that you need to put a backflow device on, but the only way that we can turn the water back on would be to get on the property, right? Is that correct?
No, we turn the water on at the meter box, which is in the,
No, I mean, like,
Right away.
in this situation, if we have a customer that says, you're not gonna be able to come onto my property,
Mhm.
we'll turn off the water, correct?
Mhm.
That's the first thing done, right?
Well,
And to get the water turned back on, now we're saying, well, you need to let us on the property and you need to put this device on. Is that the view of that?
But basically, we're not gonna turn the water back on until you let us on the property to inspect the device.
Hmm. But if the customer is allowing us back on the property at that point, then we can see if there is a hazard.
Correct.
And then we can turn it back on. But now we're also saying, you know, maybe there was no hazard at all,
Correct.
but we're still gonna be like,
And if they let us on in the first place, we shut their water off.
yeah. But now we're saying, and you gotta put on this backflow device.
If there's a violation.
Yes, if there's a violation, but when it's written here, is that exactly what that's saying? That,
so when I was looking at this, I know that we have never turned anyone's water off. What we want them to do is to protect our water supply. So I guess when I was writing this, I wanted to, you know, we always try to take progressive enforcement. So I wanted to add, and it did come up, that some of the residents didn't want us to come look at their property. So I was trying to sort of address that if you don't let us verify there's no potential or existing cross connection, then we have no choice but to assume the worst case and that you need to install this. We can also turn your water off. So that's what I was trying to address. If there's a better way to write it, I am totally.
yeah, cause I feel like it could be
open to that.
either or, either the customer is like, okay, come on to my property, I'll let you do it now, or we do this, but is this written as and instead of or? Like, all right, now you're letting us back on the property and you gotta do this extra step instead of an or.
So we say may result. So there's a difference in when you write regulations, may versus shall. And this says we may turn your water service off. But at worst case, if you don't let us on, we're gonna assume that you're doing something that could be harmful to our system. And so if you don't let us on at all to verify something we think that might be necessary, then we're gonna assume the worst case and you'll have to install a reduced pressure principal assembly. But we may turn your water off.
So it's not gonna be
In
a
the
guarantee.
meantime,
I guarantee that the water is shut off.
right, may is, I guess, per choice. So I was trying to address both situations. Please let us verify this so we can all move on. You may need something and you may not. But we could turn your water off if it gets to be a contentious situation. And I could see that happening if someone didn't let us, any consumer, not just a resident. Any consumer who would not let us, observe the property, and I added, we'll schedule an appointment with you, when it's not an emergency.
It's not gonna be
If you don't let
surprised.
us
We'll be
on, we're gonna
surprised.
ask you to install it. If you don't install it, we may turn your water off.
So I think I see what Commissioner Darab is saying,
Okay.
because it seems as though the discontinuance of water service is based on the assumption of a health hazard,
Yes.
but that assumption of a health hazard is why you're discontinuing water.
Right.
But you won't know till you enter or be able to inspect the property. But the assumption and requirement makes it seem as though there's an assumption there's a health hazard and therefore require the backflow prevention. And I think there's maybe just a word that clarifies it's not all three in a sequence, that
Mhm.
it's the the discontinuance is because of the assumption, but the assumption does not necessarily necessitate the requirement to have it.
Well, remember the definition of health versus non-health. Health equals severe. This is where all the nomenclature gets confusing. So when it says health hazard, we're saying severe hazard. Could be a moderate hazard, but if you don't let us on the parcel, we have to assume that it could be something going on that can get into the water supply that makes someone sick or kills them versus a non-health pollutional type situation, which is more aesthetics. Someone turns the water brown or something, food coloring, I'm not sure. Does that make sense? Is it because it says health hazard?
It's more the layered part of it, I think, is, because if it's contentious or, we keep on trying to get on the property, I would think, as much as we wanna work with our citizens, like, we're just gonna have to shut off the water. And that's kind of like, that's the end almost, I see, but, now we've shut off the water, now you've gotta do this other hoop to get your water back. Even though it could be moderate, or they've let us on the property, or.
Yeah, and may I add, I think I hear what you're saying, and then until they get the water cut back on, after they do, and you gain entry to the property, they still may need a backflow prevention device because their pool is hardwired to the water system.
Yeah, and yes, I don't wanna discount that.
Your
yeah.
assumption is that if you cut off the water, that's a, that's the ultimate punishment to a potential non-compliant customer. But the RPZ is a secondary to that, but it sounded like maybe it's both,
Mhm.
and that was just a little confusing.
Yeah, I think that's.
So there's maybe room for clarity to be added to that statement.
I think,
I made a
Can you
note.
help with that too?
I made a note.
Wonderful.
I think the last one that I'll bring up, then I'll allow the others to chime in, is, I guess, like, as I watched this whole discussion happen from the other side of this table, one of the things that I thought, and I don't know if it would be coming into this ordinance or not, is that if a resident comes and says they want to build a new pool, and the permits are coming through, that the town would say, just put a pool filler in there, so you have your air gap. That's gonna be a requirement of the town. Let's just start from the beginning and make that separation. And I don't know, was that discussed or?
So the history on it is the county, so we contract our building permits and inspections through the county. And they were not aware of our need to see backflow permits, so we were not getting tagged on approvals or sign-offs, subsequent sign-offs on facilities, including residents putting swimming pools in that we needed to be involved. About a year and a half ago, we talked with the county, and then they did start putting us on the permits for those. And we have, when we find out someone is building a new pool, we have required them to install a RPZ. And some of the pool installers also recognize this. In fact, during this process, there was one pool owner that actually had one existing, but it was under their deck and not to code, but the pool installer put that in. So it was discussed whether we should continue having new pool owners install the RP, but then it was discussed if we're gonna allow the air gap for existing owners, why wouldn't we do it for new? So that is not included. We're gonna go by this code once adopted. So if a permit came in today of someone who wanted to install a new residential swimming pool, they can do an air gap. They can do an RP, but I'm not guessing we'll have many takers on that.
So we're not even, it's like, I guess, I was thinking the air gap would be the easiest, I mean, it's just. a
Yes.
Pool filler into the
Right,
thing,
keep
you
your
know.
hose here, like just
Well, not
like
even
your.
that, like the actual, like, chrome pool fillers, just like a
Right,
bathtub
yes, and
filler.
don't use their hose,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, just require.
Yeah.
That first
Well,
layer, but.
Correct.
From what I've heard, people are getting away from like slides and diving boards, which is where they sort of put those things. Otherwise, you've got this faucet that's a trip hazard and things like that. I don't know if we want to get into dictating how people are gonna design their pools.
Okay.
But that was one thing that was discussed and brought up.
Thank you, Marie. Any more questions?
No, I'll like to hear what the rest of the board has to say.
Matt, do you have any questions?
I do, just a few, and they're clarifying questions, I think. So on page 2, and I think there's another page. But on page 2, it mentions town approved certified black flow prevention assembly tester, and then there's also a reference to a third party on page 9. Are both of those referencing BSI?
Okay, can you tell me exactly on the first one
Yeah,
where you're
so
referencing?
on page 2, actually, the very first section that Megan was referencing, under consumer responsibility,
Okay,
there's an addition of the term town approved certified backflow prevention assembly.
okay, yes, so a tester is actually, to be a tester, you have to show us that you have the credentials and take a class to be a certified tester. So we actually have a list on our website of approved testers, and that's what I meant by that.
Okay.
We keep a list for people who need a tester, and so we say these are the people who have approached the town and want to do backflow testing on assemblies in our town.
Okay, and then on page 9 at the very top, copies of the records must be provided to the town or its third-party manager.
That
That's
is
BSI. Okay.
correct. So we added that because that is our current policy, so we're just bringing that up to date.
Okay. Slide through some of my other notes here. On page 7, there's an addition in that first paragraph at the top of the page, kind of a third of the way down, where it says all piping systems connected, and there's the addition or suspected to be connected. How would y'all suspect that there might be a connection?
Well, if we get a backflow situation, we might suspect that a resident has, because now we can tell, we realize we can, get backflow notifications
That's right.
through our meters. So that could be, a suspicion, if the neighbors are calling and say, the water's making me sick, it might not get throughout the system, but we'll get calls. We can get, something's tasting weird in the water. We can look at our records, see if there was any type of reverse flow through a meter and say, we might also see a building, permit for a pool and see a plans or see a well being installed, and it might have a connection shown on the plans, and we want to verify, is it connected or is it not? So there's a few different things that might tip us off to a suspected connection. In my prior job in Ohio, we did a conversion of a new water system for several homes that were on wells, and they were supposed to disconnect the wells and certify that they were disconnected. But then we did experience people reconnecting their wells to the home plumbing system, and that's sort of along these lines as well.
And then my last question is on page 11, fourth to bottom page, I guess that's section H, connections with unapproved sources of supply. And it originally said Diener, the previous agency, but then it said the change is any regulating agency, regulating authority. Who would it be? DEQ and the town of Hillsborough? Like, who would be some of the others that might be?
The building inspections
Okay,
department, plumbing code, people who are required to follow,
okay,
to adhere, to enforce the building code or plumbing code. So I was trying to get the local building code, us as the town and the state.
Okay, all right. No more questions.
Great, thank you, Matt. Rob?
I don't have any.
Kathleen?
I was actually very pleased to see the language changes. I thought it was a great improvement over the past. A lot of work went in there. I'm like, get her done. And I'm thrilled to see the air gap as an option. Thank you. That's been a major concern of mine. You know, burdening residents with it's one thing when it's an unexpected, it's $1,000. When it's $4,000 in 6 months, that will kill a family. And so thank you for removing that. So I'm like, I just want to, I'm impatient. I want to get this thing, I thought it's well written, get her done.
Thank you, Kathleen. Evelyn, do you have any comments or questions for Marie?
No, I feel the same way she does. It's okay.
Thank you.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
For the
Thank
meeting.
you for your patience.
And thank you for all of the work that you've done.
We can go on all night.
And you too.
Matt, do you have?
And you too, whoever else.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know if this needs to be part of a motion, but I know you took great care to update everything to DEQ, but I think there's some abbreviations that still refer to Diener throughout. So as part of a potential motion, I would just ask that we authorize y'all to
Those
change those abbreviations.
kind of Scrivener's errors.
Yeah,
I had noticed there were 3 variations on health and hazard. And there's variation in there of some of the terms that have been used, so I say, let's just give it once more from a copy editor's perspective to just stay consistent since we're making changes.
Yeah, I thought just a D was missing in one of the words. It was reduced pressure instead of reduced pressure in one of the pages.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we have consensus on this issue and that there,
Did you want the
I just have one
suggestions
section,
from Bob
though,
on the?
I want to approve this thing. I want to move to approve it. I'm tired of, this has gone on forever. I do think that, where it needs some housekeeping on, and so my motion is to make the requisite terminology updates, but I want to get this stuff done.
One thing I can suggest is if the board's of a mind to approve tonight, we can bring back in January or something, there are only 2 or 3 sections that Megan had brought up that need to be massaged. We could bring those back and maybe have it on the consent agenda to make those amendments or we can wait until January to approve an amended ordinance.
I think we could just go ahead and approve and just bring back the clarifications
Sure.
and then throw in those like the other
Yeah.
copy editor
Okay.
stuff. And
Yeah.
we can just do it as a consent.
I
as
agree.
further amendment.
I
So,
agree.
I would move to adopt the ordinance.
I just did.
Oh, sorry. I missed that.
Kathleen's made a motion, and you're amenable to that.
Yeah, no,
variation to bring back on a
Absolutely.
consent agenda in the future with final tweaks and housekeeping.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I'm okay with bringing, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, because
Thank you,
I know this has been hanging over folks for a very long time. And I think this is one of those, closure is important.
And I spoke to some folks who had been here in attendance for some of the meetings and they seemed satisfied with the changes as well.
Agree.
Yes, thank you. and
Okay, Marie,
thank you.
you're up for the next one.
Yes, I am up for the next one, and I do appreciate you guys looking at this ordinance just from a layman's terms and bringing up things that sometimes I don't see as a engineering technical technical typewriter,
More
so.
discussion than it did some years ago. Well, I just want to say I appreciate Megan's perspective on this.
Yeah,
As an engineer
definitely.
and a certified pool.
Yes.
She is uniquely qualified to have fresh
Yeah.
eyes on this. so
Around too
appreciate
many pools. to, Have an opinion on it.
All right, so now that the code has been relaxed a little bit, one thing that we have talked about is the residents who complied before the May meeting where we paused requiring compliance. So your instruction was to take it back to the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, which we did. And Bryant and I had a discussion with Bob on what the potential parameters maybe should be that we would start the discussion from. So those were presented to the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, and I must not have printed everything out, but I had prepared a chart that hopefully is in your packet, and it has colors on it. I summarized everyone who applied for a permit to install the RPZ once they received our letter. And if you recall, there were two groups of letters. We had about 60 impacted customers with existing in-ground pools that we had identified. We sent one group of letters just for our own management purposes, sent about 20 letters in, I believe it was February, and a second round in March. Could have been March and April. It has been a while, Kathleen, hasn't it? At any rate, we discussed where everyone stood with those permits, and the chart that is in your packet is the summary. So once the board decided in May to not press the enforcement of our compliance letter, we went back into the county permit system and we did not approve those outstanding permits, and we put notations, you can comment in there on your action, and we put, you know, hold on this, we're working through some things. So, but in the meantime, before we even had the board meeting in May, there were about 6 people who actually went ahead and got it done. They're like, we got this letter, we're gonna do it, and they did it. Now, of those, I believe 3 of them actually had a final, Troy went out and looked at them and said they're good, and we signed off on the county permit system. There was one that the county didn't include us on the sign off, and they said it was good and they approved their permit and completion of it. And then there were a few more that installed them, but not necessarily to our specification. And the advisory committee felt like, well, they made the effort to do this, they shouldn't be excluded from any type of reimbursement because that's between their plumber. If their plumber did it incorrectly, then they still expended the money. There was one remaining customer that didn't even apply for a permit until June. And again, we had made the notation, we did not approve the permit for them to install an RP, putting the note that we were working on a better solution, but their plumbing company installed it without a permit. And so that's that one. So when we had the discussion with the advisory committee, first of all, because of some absences, we only had 4 in a recusal. We had 4 people board members to discuss, and it was split. So 2 of them felt that it might be a bad precedent to set, and 2 of them felt that there needed to be reimbursement. So with the split vote, I just summarized it in your agenda packet, what they said, and then they have recommended on the page 240 of your packet, they made the recommendation just to apply this to the people who received our compliance letters. There it is, February and March. And those who properly applied for a permit. And to only reimburse, if that is the route you would like to go, the installation and initial testing costs, not for any removal, any restoration or other costs that they may have taken on for this. Interest on taking money out of a savings account and things like that. They also recommend, we talked about the credit versus a check, and it was ultimately recommended that we just cut a check if that's the way that you would like to go.
And we were gonna notify the property owners and they had to apply for the reimbursement within a certain.
That is correct, yes. We were gonna make a defined deadline again to move and get this behind us. You're eligible for this. This is the documentation we need. We would like that documentation within 60 days of you
It's
receiving this.
Christmas, I would suggest being a little bit more lenient. That's got us in trouble in the first place. Was being lickety split on, we've got Christmas, so I would give them a minimum of 3 months if we could. I want also,
Catherine, hang on, you're jumping the gun just a little bit.
okay,
Do you have any, or
the only
Sorry.
clarify quick, cause I've been following the color codes, but I'm still not sure I'm clear on.
I was
the color
confused
codes.
about them too, yeah.
So, when I'm looking at the color codes, I'm looking at it, if it has a color,
They've
well,
complied.
actually, I'm looking at this list and where it says never approved issued, but it's a listed value, I can't tell. So does that mean it was installed or not installed? If it was white? And then when I look at it, all the other colors are whether the plumbing company did it correctly or not. Bottom line, it was installed and or tested.
So white means they applied for a permit. It may or may not have been issued before we got to this point, but it is not installed. I simply pulled the number from the building permit application on what they said the value was, just in case you wanted to somehow, no, they're not installed.
They purchased it, but they didn't install.
They haven't purchased,
Oh,
to our knowledge,
so the only ones who have purchased are.
and
the
installed the
color-
green ones.
Are the,
Yeah.
if they've purchased it. They've made the purchase of the item. And they have, so it's either a purchase, installation, or testing. And or. Those are the conditions and it's a color. Is that?
It's about the permit status. So the green means that they hired a plumber, they installed the assembly, it was inspected and it was signed off. It's there, it's good. The ones in white applied for a permit may or may not have been issued, but to our knowledge, there's no completion on that permit, no inspection, no, nothing. They didn't do anything, they waited.
Then where's that value coming from?
The value is from the permit application
Okay.
in the county system. So there's a page where the contractor writes, what is the value of this work? So that's just to give you an idea. And then the gold ones are the ones that were not installed to our specification and did not, except for one, when the county didn't include us, get a final certificate of completion. So they expended money, wasn't installed to our spec, never got a final approval of the installation.
So if it has a color, money was spent.
Correct.
And
And
if
then
it's white, no money was spent.
Except for the permit, cost of the permit.
there may have been,
application.
well, I don't know if they charged
Only
the
if they
permit.
finish.
Yeah,
That's-
Oh, only
yeah.
to finish.
so I don't think any fees have been paid by those
Finish the permit.
applicants.
If it's just in process, there's no fees until the end of it.
Matt, you have a question?
I do, on one of the gold ones, it's the Morlanda Drive 2 one. So. The town wasn't on the final sign off, so we don't know if it was built to specification or,
Correct,
okay,
but
but it could have been.
they installed it. They
Okay.
installed something and it got a final approval from the county.
That's the one.
Is there a way, even though we didn't have final sign off for the customer, if they're interested in going through this process, to have it reviewed by town to see if it was fit the spec?
Well, we can, but if the vote is to reimburse them, we talked about that actually, should the people in gold bring their devices up to specification? And then it was discussed, well, why, if
Not part of the code.
Well,
it was,
the
it
Morlanda one,
was sort of a moot.
I feel like they're a victim of the county not doing their job. I don't necessarily feel that way about the other two. If they didn't include y'all, that's not the customer's fault.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
yes. So
yeah.
I'm not suggesting we exclude
Okay,
the one in gold. The only one that the committee felt maybe would not be eligible is the
red
one in red. Because it had already been notified through our mailed letter, through the permit system to not do anything, and then their plumbing, I think that's what was discussed is, that's an issue between the customer and their plumbing company, because the customer didn't know the plumbing company didn't get an approved permit until the plumbing company called for an inspection, and then the county's like, you don't even have a permit to install it, so.
To me, that's the customer is getting squeezed, you know, it's the infamous, it's everyone and the customers. I just want, if it's in color, I want to reimburse them. It's that simple to me.
All these list values are the ones from the permit, is that correct?
From
I
the
know the bottom one
application.
has like 38 cents on it, so.
Well,
But
that would have
is-
been a deal, then I
Yeah,
don't
but
know if
that's
we'd be in
all
this position.
Then from the permit, these aren't actual costs from the,
Correct, so in the abstract, I mentioned that if people apply for the reimbursement, the figures could change a little bit, but just to give you an idea on what the estimated value would be, I pulled those numbers.
People occasionally budge on the permit application, what the cost of the job is occasionally.
might happen.
And real quick, Marie, so in theory, these individuals that have them installed, they can leave them installed, we're gonna reimburse them for the cost of the device. But they, in theory, have the device there and they could leave them, correct?
They could, but they would be subject to the annual testing requirements, so it would be, I mean, we would love if they left them.
Yeah.
Cause it's more protective of just even having a pool, it's protective of
Well, I don't think
whatever
they
they're doing in their
return it or
house.
Anything either. right? I don't
But
think
if they choose to take it out, then
They would not be subject to the annual inspection. That's
correct.
Do we know what that cost is? At least at this time for that annual inspection?
I think they're like $100, 110, something like that.
Marie, has anyone asked about the town funding the removal of the device?
Perhaps one. And other ancillary costs, which is why it's written the way it is here. What the committee discussed was just the installation and testing cost and not to take it back out and re-landscape whatever was there or whatever else they may have done, screening or anything like that.
So it sounds like there's consensus on the general approach to refunding, and now we need to discuss under which circumstances or any circumstances Matt has suggested where funds have been expended.
I agree with Kathleen in the time frame. I think 60 days might be a little too tight and to expand that. 90, 120. I don't wanna go out any further probably than that, I would think, but with travel and holidays.
So this is from notification of eligibility. So I personally don't think that we can pull together a reimbursement application, everything before the holidays. So we're already talking about, we'll send an email out, whatever decision you make to the impacted people, 6 or 7 or whatever you decide. And they're asking, so they're ready to submit. So
That helps.
if you wanna make it longer, that's fine. I'm just letting you know that they're probably not gonna get anything official to apply until January.
When do you think you would be prepared to send that out, the official
Yeah,
Said something on January.
yeah, it's fair, it's,
15th of January or?
I can do, thinking. I can commit to mid-January.
What if we said, send it out and notify them that they gotta apply by April 1st?
or something?
That would be
Date
fine too.
specific.
Said
Which is
they're
three and a half
waiting,
months
they have
from now.
that, there's.
Yes, I mean,
they
that
have-
makes sense, and hopefully some of them can, if there's refunds and stuff to time with that. I
Mhm.
wanna be mindful of kind of tax season. But that's the time when they're gonna be pulling out bills and things like that anyway, so if it can facilitate from that standpoint,
Someone really wants their money back,
They're gonna, yeah.
apply pretty quick.
but I don't, you know, I mean, yes, we need to have some documentation, but I don't wanna have it an onerous process. Very, you know, I'd rather err, given what folks have been through, I'd rather err on the side of the residents. And just make it easy for them.
Well, I don't think we're gonna make it onerous, but I think if we're expending town funds, we need to have
I mean,
receipts.
yes, some but
And that's about it.
yeah, documentation, but there's documentation, then there's documentation, and then there's documentation.
We're gonna make.
It's in the interest-
Everything in triplicate.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, it sounds like there's consensus, April 1st, an acceptable date?
Yes.
Everybody happy with that? Okay, what about the number of, are we talking about 6 or 7?
All the
Somebody wanna make a suggestion for 6 or 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the color ones, there's 7.
All the color.
There's 7 of them.
Okay,
So-
our consensus on that, does everybody feel comfortable? with all
Well,
of them?
can I make a stab at making a motion?
Go for
Please
it.
do.
So, let's go back to this.
And can I ask a question? How much money,
17,000.
About 17,000, the actual,
17,000 total?
yes,
Okay, not. for
depending
each
on
person.
actual
But you
receipts.
see, you talk about Christmas, then you talk about spring, and people are gonna start building swimming pools in the spring. And then you're gonna go through the whole thing all over. You know,
It'll be
you
less
gotta
costly for
get
them.
it out, but that, you know, you either get this done correctly or you'll be fine. You know, something like that, because you're gonna find season after season after season, they're gonna start building pools and don't tell me they haven't had tons of letters saying you have to do so and so.
Well, now that we have the no cost air gap option with the code that was just adopted, it should not be a problem in the future. We should not be in
We
this.
just don't wanna give
particular-
it time to get into a problem in the future.
Correct.
So I think we're on the right track if we can just get it going. And get it over with.
Agreed.
Okay,
Okay, so I move that we reimburse, customers that, paid for installation of backflow assemblies. And then what's the date, the state the commissions,
Provided they apply for reimbursement by April 1st.
thank you. Can you repeat that, Bob?
Provided they apply for reimbursement by April
By
1st,
April 1st,
2024.
Can you repeat that or?
Second.
Are we comfortable
Okay,
with
we
that?
have a motion, a second, is there any more discussion?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
we're done with that.
Hallelujah.
Well, we're not quite done. We'll see you back in January with some code changes.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next on the agenda, fiscal year 2025 budget retreat follow-up discussion. Eric, are you handling that?
I'll do four quick points and then turn it back to the board. So after the discussion of the last meeting, went through and made some revisions for the board to consider on the retreat agenda. And there was particular focus on the affordable housing part. So I took a stab at something that you can react to, but the board's free to change it whatever way you want. There was additional information included in there because I needed a refresher on the ramp up plan and some other things to help you, once again, just get brought back up to speed on where we were at, and just turn it over to the board for any direction on what you want to see in the agenda or don't want to see. And once we can get some feeling on that, then we'll figure out how to actually make that happen.
Great, thank you. Let's go around the room this way. Evelyn, do you have any? Questions for
I would prefer not to spend. Oh, we've discussed affordable housing and we need to discuss it some more, but don't spend the whole day discussing affordable housing. We need to do other things that you see happen between now and then. There are gonna be other things that are gonna pop up that could be just as important or more important. Just limit, make it a fair amount, not the whole thing, because we're gonna have water, sewer, everything else, water, sewer, whatever. Whatever comes our way will come. And you see that.
Thank you, Evelyn. Kathleen?
I've said what I've said, but so I'm not gonna repeat it. In terms of the topic, but my thoughts are more of how we approach this. Because there is a way we can look within as little as 60 minutes. Do scenario planning of making a couple assumptions. And if it was divided into even 2 to 3, we can have. Because each team, it's 4 assumptions, just by the nature of the structure of the exercise. Have 8 to 12 scenarios of what the future will look like for us. The risks, the benefits, recommendations, and the narrative around that to how do we talk about it.
Okay.
And so I think in terms of affordable housing, because it's a good use of that, because there's so many issues of, and I'll use an example, if we look at, rental, no rental, is just one example, the ownership being one variable. Dollar value being the other variable. I'm making that off the top of my head. That's 4 scenarios right there. Anyway, so it's our approach, and I'm more interested in seeing us take some different approaches, because we keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, and that won't work. And I've seen some other approaches work really, really well. But I like having this basis for our conversation very much, because it gives us context, it gives us our current outlays, it gives us some data to work with.
Say you like this approach very much.
Yeah, so I like what Eric has I like the information that Eric has in the agenda for us to consider. But again, our approach, how to do it, and I know we haven't had a conversation, but how we structure that conversation and how we structure, I'm very interested in right now is not the time to go into that.
Right, thank you. Rob?
And I'm comfortable with Eric's recommendations, the staff recommendations and comments. And knowing that this is just gonna be an exhaustive, sort of discussion moving forward, but I think it is a good starting point, for our retreat.
Thank you. Matt?
I'm fine with the agenda. As laid out by Eric.
I also am just fine with the agenda as presented. The first one also, budget retreat also, so.
Excuse me. Okay, so, let's see, do we need a motion on that, or Eric, do you have the direction you need to help?
That's the direction, just to handle it and then we'll. Got it.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that takes us to, number 13, updates from town board members. So Megan, you don't have any updates yet. But you will, in the near future.
Yes.
Matt?
Big update is on swag. I don't think we've had a swag, town board meeting since our last meeting was swag. I guess Rob and my last meeting on swag, in addition to the literal last meeting. And so what we had was, some proposals of ramping up the solid waste fee, to get to, basically waste zero. And we had 3-tier options. The relative consensus around the table was that we would go to the 3rd tier. Rob and I were kind of split on which tier. We never got the answer of if we didn't go with the 3rd tier, which was the most expensive option, which was an additional $100 and some odd a year, added on to that fee. How long would it take us to get to waste zero? If not by 2045, how close do we get, in general, if it's not 100%? We didn't really get an answer. It was kind of, we just won't get there, which I don't think was very helpful. But we did talk through ways that folks might be able to fill out the fee waiver, or a reduction in the fee for folks who are particularly economically stressed, make it easy on folks to apply for that. Then there's like all kinds of documents you currently have to provide and whatnot, but under penalty of perjury and right to review, there are pretty high standards for most people not to lie on a form. And Rob was a big advocate for making sure that the form be modified in plain English or plain language. Not just English, because there'll be other languages, but plain language so that people understand the form as well. And in real time, we found that the link on the county's website wasn't working. At least one of the links weren't working. So all in all, at some point, we should be getting a suggestion from the county on that. And I think it will filter back through swag and then eventually make it to us for former approval.
I didn't hear about, so I did that one remotely and the audio was terrible, and so it kept on cutting out and stuff too, and I missed some stuff. Did they say when they were taking that to the BOCC?
No, they did not say when that would come, and Robert didn't say either when that would come up. I just know that it will eventually come up for y'all to discuss again, and then bring back to our respective boards. But the idea wasn't that we would go from what the fee is currently. It would be phased in over time.
So Dustin asked me after that, Eric, when that would be going to the BOCC. So if you find out, will you just let him know? That's what I would do.
All right.
I don't think it's anything in the new year. But I don't know exactly when that would be.
And the other, and maybe this is something you can chime in on, since you were so helpful, Mark, with getting our improvements to this room put in, but there is a big disconnect when people remotely participate on swag. And I don't know if it's because solid waste staff are trying to run the meeting and run the technology at the same time, but thankfully I went. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't even have quorum, but but the remote participation, most of whom, the folks who remotely participate are staff. Occasionally there are electeds who, not Zoom in, they use Teams, but there is some sort of, issue that really inhibits participation. So I'd really make sure that your first meeting, you go, in person.
Interesting. It's same facility in Eubanks Road? Okay. They still serve dinner for these meetings?
They do.
Okay, all right.
That's good.
Well, thank you for doing all the work before Megan and I take over those assignments and just say.
And it's probably worthwhile watching that last meeting too, because they asked all the electors what their opinion was with these 3 pages, and then they were taking that, and that's what they for the county commissioners, they could be able to contact what people saying, because there is a mix up too in terms of who in Chapel Hill and who in Carver and who is also on that board too, so, so start from scratch.
Yeah, great, thank you.
And I know, I think Randy Haven O'Donnell is staying on there, so there'll be a continuation. Barbara Fouchy's coming on. I don't know what the county commissioners look like, and Chapel Hill has not had their meeting yet, but there'll be a lot of transition because Damon and Pam stepping off, and a few others as well. So it'll be
I think Randy's the only one that's been on, because when I was on Randy, she was on.
She was there too when I was there 6 years ago.
she's the lone survivor.
Yep, she
The other thing
exactly.
that came out is the county is taking over the recycling responsibilities. And so they've been contracting that out to the unincorporated areas, but they're taking over that responsibility.
Hallelujah. That's a big deal.
Anything else?
Not particularly. We had a really smooth tourism board meeting, that was last week. So that was really awesome to hear from the contract partners. We did have FSA. Unfortunately, I had a work conflict, today, but I plan to follow back up with folks to see what had been going on, but nope, no other updates.
Okay, thank you. I have no updates. Rob?
Coming up, that's.
Kathleen?
And so with the COG, I've been the alternate for the state, which been very active. The delegate was de-elected. I am now the full delegate. Which actually is just a continuation because I've been active all along, and in this case, thank God. That's the only update right now.
Thank you. And Catherine, what do they call this? Council of Cogs or?
So no, it's actually the North Carolina Association of Regional Councils of Government. And so there's 16 councils of government in the state. And every COG has 1 to 2 delegates that meet with the regional COG directors. Every other month, unless we call it off. And the mission is to represent the elected officials and the interests of the COGs of the region, the regional interests. And it's, you've heard before is that a major piece is the legislative action, which is how come the COGs received money from the legislature to support municipalities on applying for ARPA funds, for doing the reporting, meeting the reporting standards, and things like that, because the COGs by statute are local governments. So while I'm also active on the league, the COGs are able to do things that the league cannot because of the statutory differences.
Gotcha. Thank you. And thank you for your service on the COG. Evelyn?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
I wasn't gonna have anything, but, Matt, texted me and said a reminder that the solid waste fees are on the property tax bills every year. So as far as the, Orange County will certainly be discussing that during their upcoming budget process about what changes to make. Or if any.
That's a good point. Yeah, and that was one of the things that, I think it was Randy or somebody brought up, was like, how do they tie it to the actual value?
Rather than flat fee.
As opposed to a flat fee for,
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, that takes us to, let's see, town manager, staff, any other staff have reports. Anything, Brian? Great. Okay, well, that takes us to the new item on our agenda, which is a closed session.
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we'll take a little 5-minute break to clear the room and then we'll do that. And this will be a short item, so we will.
Oh, not ready. We have something else?
We have to do the motion for the,
Oh, for the other thing.
are we, let me know when
Oh,
we're ready.
I remember that. It was a cute little
Sarah,
house.
we're good to go?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and we are back in open session.
And I do move to authorize, our town attorney, to agree with Forest Ridge, to expend up to
We'll accept $32,000.
we'll accept $32,000.
Plus a warrant, a 1-year warranty
Plus-
on phase 7.
Yes, what he said,
And that's the Forest Ridge, not.
for
the
Forest,
Ferrari.
Ridge.
Yes.
That
Thank you,
was
Kathleen.
nice.
Do we
They
have a
were
second?
gonna scrape the
Second.
streets along.
Thank you, Matt.
No, yeah, they were gonna scrape the.
We have a motion and a
off
second.
the
Is there any
street.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. Evelyn, you were gonna make a motion to,
Make a motion to adjourn.
thank
There
you,
you
Evelyn.
go. Second.
Thank you,
No,
Kathleen. We have a
maybe
motion
we-
second. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Hallelujah.
Y'all.
Or maybe.
I'm just so glad to get that. damn-
Oh, wow, where you going?
I gotta go
You're gonna be up early.
I won't even forget, I still have.
Uh,